There's nothing like league. And this is the Betfred Super League. No! Got me here. It took a big chunk out of me. Bleeding. It's bleeding. Oh no, it's bleeding. The thing just ripped my ear off. What do you think?
Hello again, everyone, and welcome along to this, the latest edition of Eddie and Stevo, the podcast, here as always with the support of our dear friends at Betfred. This is another special edition of the podcast, and I have not one, but two guests with me. It's a real pleasure to say hello and welcome to the head of youth at Warrington, Gary Chambers, and the club's assistant coach, who is also heavily involved in the development of young players at the Wolves, Richard Marshall. Great to see you both, fellas. Thanks very much for giving up your time. I know you're really, really busy. And you are busy because now you've got this academy tour to Australia that you're planning. Now, this is groundbreaking as far as the Wolves are concerned, Gary, isn't it?
Yeah, it came about, back in the last year through a conversation with the chairman, Stuart Middleton. And he's been a massive supporter of the club for many years, and he said, it's something that he feels would benefit the youth of the club with the experience that he gained from that, and moving forward it would benefit him long term. So he's really supporting what we do and ensuring that we're going to make it out there. So it's a massive thanks to him and everybody else who's involved in this sort of drive and moving us forward.
It's a fantastic opportunity for the young players, and I would imagine St Helens have done this before, of course. They've been over to Australia with their academy year on year. I would imagine if Warrington are going to do the same, Richard, what a magnet for the local junior players to come here and know that perhaps they're going to have a trip of a lifetime.
Yeah, I think that's obviously one of the benefits of running a tour, probably once every 2 years, so we get different grades going. But more than that, as Gary alluded to, the life experience, playing in a different country, probably against the best players in the world at their age, which I think is something really exciting. There's a lot of work to be done yet. We've got to do some fundraising. We've been doing events, kindly hosted by yourself, so thanks very much for that.
Not a problem.
We'll be knocking on your door again, don't you worry.
No, I didn't think that would happen.
So there's lots of work to do, but we were really excited. The players are really good. We're going to be taking around 30 junior players between 17 and 18 years of age, and that will be a challenge in itself. But yeah, it'll be brilliant. It's an all-encompassing tour. We're looking to tick all the boxes for the life experience.
You say it's going to be a challenge. It is. I mean, look, you go on holiday with your kids and your wife, and that is a bit of a logistical nightmare at times. You've got 30 to take to the other side of the world. You must be losing sleep over it, surely.
Oh, look, we trust them. I mean, what we try and do here is we're not going to give them loads of rules and regulations to follow. We want good people. Please, thank you, old-fashioned values and that sort of thing. It's up to them to police themselves. If we set parameters in that, ultimately, by human nature, you're going to go and break it anyways. So we'll rely on them and their professionalism and their smarts as a group to sort of monitor that and lead themselves. It's something that, when I came in here, Rich was here, and we developed this leadership group, and the way that sort of evolved and he's still evolving in that group of young men has been absolutely fantastic. They lead on everything. They set the standards. They drive this vehicle forward. So, and that's something when I came in here, Rich was already underway doing that with Tyrone's, which was brilliant, and it's something we continue with now.
So you won't be sitting on the door of the hotel making sure that the lads, 18, 19-year-olds, are not out on the lash in between matches. Is that the case?
Listen, the only person I'll be sitting waiting for is the person sat next to me, Sir Gary Chambers. If he comes in early, we're doing all right. No, it'll be great. There's lots of things. There's parents going as well. It's a real family tour. There's lots of parents on there. One of the players, Mum's Noah High's mum's organising. She's a travel agent, so she's put loads of packages in place. But ultimately, it's about improving our squad, our players, and then coming back. I mean, I'll give you an example. I was 18. I went over and played 6 months at it was called Jersey Flegg Manly. Under 18s when I was 18, and I came back and signed professional, and that was it. My career was done then. It was fantastic. Off the back of that experience, playing over there against some of the best players. So I think it will improve us as a club, our juniors, and it will get them ready for the rigours of Super League, which is really tough. You know, and they've got to experience playing, preparing, obviously recovering. It will be a 3-week. It won't be a holiday. It will be tough, and it will be part of the pre-season package that we offer here.
It's a fantastic opportunity for the young men, isn't it? It really is, and you would hope that there's the carrot at the end of the stick.
Yeah.
If you want to go on this tour, okay, Saints do it. Other clubs maybe do it as well. But if you want to go on this tour from the northwest of England, here you go. Warrington is going to do it, hopefully on a regular basis. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're never. I'm not naive enough to think that Stuart can, look after us and support us in this way every 2 years. We've got to sort of generate enough funds now that we can have a surplus that moves on into 2 years, that we can just top up with that. And that's the big drive at the moment, making this, as good as it can be now, hopefully with something left over that we've got to build on, and we can keep doing that next year, and then again the year after we have another big push. But there's also that surplus there. But the aim is to sweat the asset, get it as good as it can be, so it is a real once in a lifetime opportunity.
Do you have a target in mind? If we go on this tour with 30, 40 lads, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 will make it into Super League?
It's a tough one, that, Ed. It really is. We think we've got a good bunch. What I will say is we think we've got a really, really good bunch this year. I think there's some real quality at 17 and 18 in this group. There's a number of them. What we're trying to do is come up with this new model that we're trying to put a really focused reserve team together next, so there's not that massive transition to go from 18s academy to first team squad. It's just too big of a jump. Yeah, you get your elite players who can do that, but not many that can make that jump and at that level and that intensity. So we're trying to put this reserve package together that once they've finished the Australia tour, they'll be in a bit of a pre-season, they'll have a bit of break when they get back, and then they're into this reserve programme. And we think we'll get more because of the reserves than jumping straight from academy, where 18 and 19 they're not ready. It's a big man's game. It's a big, strong blokes game. It's physical development at its absolute maximum. So we've got to give them that vehicle that reserves to build themselves up, to get stronger, to get bigger, and ultimately get more mature.
And that's quite a topic, isn't it, Richard? Reserve team football, the reserve grade, the A team as it used to be in the good old days when you two were playing. This is the way forward, surely, for every Super League club, every club in the business. Get a reserve grade going, get a reserve team going, and there is your next phase of players coming through. Yeah,
I think as a governing body, the RFL, we've tried everything. We've gone down every avenue and exhausted everything. And I think the most successful development model is the reserve grade. We was part of it, playing through. I remember playing in really big games when I was coming through the system at Halifax. And that develops players. It's okay having dual reg partnerships, loans, and at the moment we've got a couple of examples of players who Conor Wrench is just come back from an ACL. He played last week in the reserve grade. There's intermittent games now in the reserve grade. He won't play for another 3 weeks unless he goes out on loan.
They've got to be playing every week.
So they've got to play every week. That's one of the benefits for someone like Conor Wrench. But then we've got Lucas Green as well, who's just come into the first team. And again, he'll be coming over to Catalans with us, but he's probably not going to get a game then for the next couple of weeks. So it is imperative, and I think the model that Gary has put together is about not just the rugby. He's put there's a work package, so they still be working part time, and also a university package at UCLan. So we've got some really good links there, so they can it'll be like a hybrid model. Half in with training with the first team and half doing studies and work. I think that's the way forward for most teams. We're a bit behind in that, but I think in the next 12, 18 months, I think we'll be probably the trendsetter with that model.
And finance is obviously a problem throughout the game at the moment, from top to bottom. It will cost money to run a reserve grade team. There's no question about that. You need all 12 Super League clubs, though, all dipping into the same pond, don't you?
Yeah, you do, and it can be done. So I coached at Halifax.
Some of them don't even do reserves, though. Some of them don't even do academies, though.
No, they don't. No, and there is a little bit of funding there for certain clubs in the system. But in terms of the reserve grade, you can run a reserve grade on around 30 to 50k a year. You can run it. I was part of one at Halifax where we was the only championship team with a reserve grade, and that was 3 or 4 years in the making. So it can be done. But clubs, even if I reckon if you put something like, if you've got a reserve grade, you get a bit more salary dispensation on the salary cap. If there's more players that are coming through there, you can spend a little bit more money. So, for clubs like us, that'd be great. We could spend more on more high profile players as a result of getting the juniors playing every week. I think that's something that needs to be looked at, dispensation for having a reserve grade. And a successful one, and getting play, because ultimately it's about getting players through, isn't it? It's about getting players through, and not just for Warrington Wolves, for the game. There isn't enough players knocking around in the game. There just isn't.
I was going to talk about that. Stevo says, we look and try and organise the top of the pyramid, but what's happening below the iceberg, below the water? We're all looking very serene at the top, but you're paddling away like Billy-O to keep things going, and the amateur game is struggling. There's no question about that. Teams in Warrington, clubs in Warrington have folded. Are there enough young players for you?
It's a tough one again. In Warrington, what we're finding, I'm not going to answer it direct. I'm not skipping around this. Hopefully by the end of this question, you'll see where I'm going. What we try and do is, and I think we're probably one of the only clubs that do this, any lads who aren't playing academy or reserves, we send them back to play amateur, even if they're contracted. We've got an agreement with Northwest Counties, and they allow us to do that. So we build this really good relationship with them. So they can
go back even though they're very heavily connected with a professional club?
Yes, and we've got that link, and they do that. And that gives us a lot of buy-in. The amateur clubs believe in what we're trying to do. We also, scholarship as in its current essence, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, I don't think it's good for the game. We make a decision on young people at 14 and 15 in a game that's late maturation. You get better as you get older. So what we try and do is we're trying to sort of, we value youth development and developing these young players, and you're going to get your elite kids that need extra support on that to bring them through quicker. But we're trying to keep it up broader for longer. It's something that everybody knows what we're trying to do. We're trying to run our PDP camps, our player development pathway. We're trying to make that as big as it can be. We're running a prospects, which is an educational focused group that will move on to Priestley College. So we've got this big, massive, sort of machine going underneath the academy. At the moment with the PDP, we've got 1,006 young people registered, 11 to 16,
wow,
which is massive.
Yes.
So are the young people there? Yeah, there's players there, and we've proven that. What we've got to do is not shut the door on them by saying we'll allow 20 people on a scholarship, 20 players, and then that's it. We keep it open. So we won't fill the scholarship, so people have always got a chance of getting into scholarship, but we've also got a prospects and a PDP programme. And if we can keep it open and keep them playing and keep sending people back to their amateur clubs, we're going to have this mass participation numbers at the bottom that ultimately will feed through and through and through. So when it gets to the top, there'll be better players and more players to pick from. So what we're saying is it's broader for longer. We'll keep it open. If someone's not ready at 16, that's fine. We're still going to keep them in our programme. We run camps all the time to keep them through. There'll be an academy programme that we can bring them in with, they can train with them. There'll be a reserves programme that will keep it open, and we'll go out and look at games for 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds. We'll go to university programmes. We're going to run open access programmes for people who are late developers to the game, and not put as much pressure on a group of young people that at 16 are trying to get through their exams, which is probably one of the biggest times in their lives, and ultimately try and get an academy contract at the same time. When really the academy contract should be secondary. Exams, education, set themselves up for life, and then worry about rugby after that. Fun, up until 16, 17, loads of numbers playing, and then it gets a bit more serious after that.
And Rich, if you send them back to the amateur game, the players you've had under your microscope for what, 2 or 3 years, and they start to develop, can they always come back?
100%, and as Gary suggests, the door's never closed. I'll give you an example. We released a young player called Ash Barnes last year. Wasn't quite ready for the first team, and he went off and did a little bit of rugby union. Well, he's back playing in our reserve grade at the moment, and he's doing a really good job. But as you know, it is. We spoke about James Harrison, didn't we, the other day? Who came through Featherstone. You know, I think he was 25, 26 before he made his Super League debut. You know, and that's. There is players out there. There is still players in the amateur game that we're looking at. I mean, we go from I'm watching my son play for the under-15s at Latchford tonight, and then at the weekend we'll be watching, you know, amateur teams playing. There's lots of avenues, lots of opportunities, certainly in Warrington, and I just think it's just getting that performance model. It's not all about the first team. It's important. Listen, we get judged on our results. We're at Halliwell Jones now, and I'm looking at the field, and you know we've been doing some really good stuff out there. But it's everything that goes on underneath is so important. We know that the supporters just see a tip of the iceberg. There's loads going on at this club.
Absolutely, you can't be knocked for not having a go, because you were having a go to try and bring more and more numbers through. Which, of course, in itself, when they get a degree of expectation and they're knocking on the door of the first team. Darryl Powell then has got the problem. How does he keep them interested? How does he say to them, well, not this week, but maybe next week, I suppose? Is that the way it works?
It was a tough one for him, you know. We had those games, we had them key games against Wigan and Saints and that, and we lost those games. But it was tough for Darryl at that time because he's got bands of people with being banned. He's got picked up injuries, and he's sort of coming to us and saying who can go in here. And to be fair, you know, we've got some lads who were just not quite ready. We've got that. You know, Conor Wrench was probably the obvious choice, who's on that 21, 22 sort of lip, just ready to really cement his place, but he's coming back from injury. And we've got a lot of young players, 18, 19, 20, you know, who were just not ready to go and match it at that physical standard. So it was tough. This time next year, they'll be 12 months older, they'll be 12 months bigger, and you know, and we have this argument all the time. I'm adamant it's about physical development first. You can catch them up with skill. You can't catch them up with physical development. Let's get them fit. Let's get them big. Let's get them strong, and then we can skill them. For too long in the current game, we've thought, they're skillful. Let's play them. Well, then they start breaking. You know, Sam Burgess, probably one of the greatest players we've had. He makes his international debut at 18 and 19. He retires at 29. And in theory, the guy should have 6 more years of playing high standard rugby.
Of course he should.
But because he went in early, I firmly do believe he's picked up a lot of knocks. And you know, so what we've got to do is give that headache further down the line by keeping them interested, by making sure that they're doing something, not just like we're trying to make sure that we look after them. So when they come in and whether they're ready for that reserve programme, they're not just going to go play first team and sit around and go on events with first teamers like George Williams and think they've made it, because they haven't. They're going to go out and work, and we're going to try and get them a career, like Rich has said. And they'll fit the rugby in around that, and it'll make them better individuals for doing that.
They appreciate like what we're trying to do with the Australia as well, don't they?
Yeah.
You know,
I'm sure they do.
There's one downside. The Australian teams will be looking at our players. You know, that's one of the downsides, and we've discussed that. But because of the package that we're running, they love the place. They love coming to training and the camaraderie with it all. We run a session at 6 o'clock in the morning, didn't we, on Tuesday with them all. You try getting 30 there's only 13 of them up there out of bed at 5:30 in the morning. And they've got exams at the moment, and it's full on. But we'll get that back. We think we'll get that back, don't we? You know, we're going to take these 30 lads to Australia. They'll come back. Some of them will get offered a couple of contracts. Some of them won't, but hopefully they'll still be in our system.
Yeah, and whatever. Well, what's the phrase? Whatever gives you difficulties makes you stronger. You know, all being well. But fantastic. It's a wonderful, wonderful idea. You've obviously got it well and truly under control. And good luck with the tour to Australia. Can we just talk now about the game in general? Gary, people listening to this will know you're not actually a Warringtonian. You're not a Mancunian. You're a Cumbrian.
Yeah,
Cumbria, and a proud Cumbrian.
Yeah, proud Cumbrian. Yeah.
Cumbria is the forgotten land of rugby league, isn't it?
Oh, look, they wind me up, the lads, about this, because we have. I'm not going to go on for it. I'll be on about this forever. So you know, even now with the Origin, and we've got loads of lads in Origin, and we've got, you know, and it's really good for them. But we've got, I know, a Lancashire and a Yorkshire, and I'm thinking, you know, we've got a couple of there's some Cumbrian lads that are in our team, and obviously they play for Lancashire. And I can't even look at one. I'm just laughing at him. I can't look at him. I'm just shaking my head at him. And what are you doing? And he's like, "What do you want me to do?" And it is. We take the game everywhere, but we don't take it where it's absolutely fanatically supported. I was up there the other week, and my team Kells were playing Wathbrow in an open age game, and there must have been 1,000 people at the game. You can just see them coming out the doors, and they're just all. It was like, where they coming from? It was 4 deep around a rugby pitch, and they're just watching an amateur game, and you're thinking, and they love it, but there is that.
Well, they hate each other. Workington don't speak to Whitehaven. Whitehaven don't speak to Barrow. Carlisle's gone. I mean, what can we do? What can we do to nurture, to bring... I mean, Stevo's called them the Cumbrian Tumblers, or whatever he wants to call them. Wouldn't it be wonderful to see a team from Cumbria in a grand final one of these days?
Oh, they would... It's
and they'd fill the place.
They'd fill it. You know, when we used to, we play for Cumbria, and you know, I coach Cumbria, and we play teams. You know, we do New Zealand and things like that, and Australia come over. You get 8, 9, 10,000 easy, just sells out, and it's not an issue when they come. But if you then put a badge on it and saying that Cumbria are going to play in Workington, or Cumbria are going to play in Whitehaven, or Cumbria are going to play in, you know, this Cumbria team are going to play in Barrow, you know, this Super League team, then Working wouldn't go to Whitehaven. Exactly what you say, and I don't know it. People say put it in Penrith, but they won't go.
No.
Because what you've got is you've got a natural barrier, which is where the fells, the hills. So we're on the coast. Then in between that, you've got this natural barrier of hills, and then you've got a bit of civilization again, which is Penrith. But they won't go through that. No, they want to watch rugby, but they want to watch it on their terms. And I would love it if we could put a big stadium somewhere right in the middle, and then someone will come invest, because it is a quite affluent area because of your BNFLs and all that sort of thing. Create a team with a homegrown team in there, and it would fly. It would. There's no issue about will people turn up. Yeah, they love it. It's all they do. It's the amateur clubs up there are massive, and it's different than what we have down here. You know, everybody's striving to play first team for Wathbrow, Kells or Egremont and teams like that. Where down in what I notice in Warrington is that it's a them and us situation with the youth. Not all the time, but the youth have their pocket of money and their committee and that, and the open age team have theirs. Where it isn't quite as fluid as what it should be. Where up there, you know, I've got my own nephews. They're striving to get into Kells first team. Like, it's a badge of honour.
I'm sure. And you know, I was talking to Lindsay Hoyle a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, and he's saying the rugby league should have a stadium in London, because London appears to be the catalyst. You were at London Broncos, of course, Rich, weren't you? Yeah. London appears to be the catalyst. Get it going in London, and it will become the sport that we all know that it is. A wonderful game played nationally. Again, places like Cumbria, forgotten.
Yeah, London's a prime example. Again, it's not quite worked. I played at London for 3 years, and I played in 2 different grounds and trained at 2 different areas. But played with an outstanding Cumbrian, Rob Purdom. He was absolutely class, and he was so passionate about Cumbria as well. We'd go up there, and I've been up there with you, haven't I, watching games and that, and it's such a really good area. It's such a shame, and I don't know the answer. No. You know, it's not quite worked in London.
Do you think IMG knows the answer?
Well, let's hope so. And if they've got a vision of what the game should look like, it has to include a team from Cumbria. I just think that's a no-brainer. I understand the work, the rivalry, but at some point you've got to put that to one side and go, this. If you market it well as a Cumbria and a collective. And I would still have your Whitehaven and Workington playing in and around that, but that then is a next tier. That's an elite model that needs a lot of money. But like as Gaz said, it's an affluent area. I'm not sure, but I think it'd be great for the game, wouldn't it, to get a team from Cumbria there?
It'd be brilliant. But you talk about them not talking. I remember 1995, Maurice Lindsay stood up and said, Widnes and Warrington will merge. Yeah. Featherstone, Castleford. and Wakefield will merge. And there were near riots in all the towns. There was no chance.
You know, you look at Australia and you don't want to keep going to Australia because, you know, but they do set some trends and that, and they're going through this big expansion program. They're on about bringing another team in after the Dolphins, and they're looking at areas. And they must have the same problems. There must be that same rivalry around in that Brisbane.
I don't think they're not as parochial as us, are they, in territorial? They're just not as a nature. The lads, our Australian lads, went to watch Liverpool football the other day. They couldn't believe it. You know, they couldn't believe it. I think they played Wolves or something like that, who aren't even a local derby, and you know, it was going off at that game. So I don't think you have that in Australia. And it's a different culture. True. It's just different. I mean, they've worked. Like, we got West Tigers and teams like that have merged. I know Northern Eagles didn't quite work, and obviously the finances are slightly different there. I played for Huddersfield, Sheffield Giants. I mean, imagine that'd have been a nightmare for you commentating on
Stevo's teeth fell out every time he talked about it.
Well, that lasted a year, possibly 2 years, and that went. You know, it's. I don't know, but I think I think it is different. I don't think there's a rivalries that they have in Australia.
No, there isn't. But hey, you know, utopia is just around the corner. And talking of utopia, here we are at Warrington. 4 points clear at the top of the table. I have the assistant coach to Darryl Powell sitting opposite me now. I know the forbidden phrase is, this is our year, but there is such hope in this town at the minute. You've been to Old Trafford twice with St Helens, and it's a night never to be forgotten, isn't it? Can it happen? Can you give Warrington supporters, and they're all over the place, not just in Warrington, can you give Warrington supporters any hope at all, or does it stick in your craw?
Well, listen, I've been to Old Trafford with Warrington as well and lost. So it's. But listen, I think because of what happened last year with the team, I think anything at the minute is a bonus. Let's be honest. I think the recruitment that Darryl's done has been really astute. I thought, you know, the players that he's brought in have really added to the group.
And you've got a big pack, haven't you?
Yeah, and that's probably where we lacked last year. As Gary's alluded to, the youngsters are pushing all the time. So I think that he's created a really good motivating climate for these players to express themselves. And then you've seen it on the pitch. However, we've not quite nailed it against the bigger teams as yet. And we've been to Challenge Cup finals, haven't we, with Warrington? And the occasions are absolutely outstanding. The Challenge Cup is such a big competition, and I don't think the Australians I've got a grasp of that either. You know, it's probably just another fixture. You only need to play 3 games to get to a final. You know, it's
not
there.
fair, is it? You've got to play 27 rounds in the league, and then you've got to play a couple of playoffs, and then you might get a chance at the big prize.
Yeah,
it's not fair, the Challenge Cup.
Well, but ultimately, it's about winning a grand final for this club. That is it.
1955, Rich.
Yeah, it's a long time.
You weren't even born then.
No, I'm not far off. Gary was. But
I was.
But that'd be great. Listen, that's brilliant. But I think, you know, we're doing okay. I don't even think we've reached our potential as a group as yet. I've only been working with the first team for the last 6 months since Darryl appointed me as his assistant, and we did pre-season. I thought they had a really good pre-season. I think that's why we started so well. We played Leeds here the first game of the season and absolutely blew them away. It was like I even think we surprised and shocked ourselves. We were like, wow, this team's got something. But then, as Gary said, we've had a couple of injuries and some suspensions, and other teams have improved as they always do. But you know, we got 40 points put past them last week, you know, which is, it's a big score, that, you know. So anything can happen. That's why the competition and the game of rugby league is excellent. It's brilliant. It's such a great spectacle, and I just hope we can play a part in that.
And you two have been involved in the game all your lives. I know, Gary, you almost took a career break, if you like. You went into teaching, you became a deputy headmaster, but you still had close contact with this club and with the game.
Yeah, I've been here 35 years now, Ed, to be fair. You know, you wonder where that's gone to. And, you know, I've never left out, even when I was teaching, and I was still doing the scholars and the reserves and with the academy, just, you know, dipping in with that. And, you know, for this club to, you know, it's just massive for the club. It's a good club. You know, they are fantastic people that are at this club. I think, you know, I'm so passionate about this place. I think that, you know, Darryl coming in and you know, he had a tough year. he had to get his group as he wanted it. You know, he asked me, you know, when I came in at the end of the year, I sort of packed teaching in to come here because Rich was here and Tyrone was here, and they've both gone, so I thought brilliant. So, but I think taking Rich up to give Daryl that bit of freedom to speak to players a bit more rather than be absolutely hands-on has been like a stroke of genius, you know, and shows Rich's worth. You know, what he did with the academy was outstanding last year, and he's took that forward into the first team.
And is this, as far as you're concerned, this is what you want to do full-time, moving forward, for the foreseeable?
Oh mate, that's me now. I've got me dream job. I've got, you know, I work with my mates. I've got the best life in the world. I love life. Life's, you know, doing this sort of thing with you, and yeah, I am really happy. I'm content. I love the club with all my heart, and you know, and it's like there's good people here, and they deserve something. Yeah, they've got to work hard and they've got to make some good decisions. But I firmly believe that the infrastructure in this club is set up to go forward and not just win it, to be a real force in the game. And I think I know attendance is up in Super League, you know, it's in a healthy position. Super League wise, the attendances are going well, and I think a healthy Warrington team to rival it, you know, you obviously from a Lancashire point of view, a Wigan and a Saints, and have that going is only good for the game. And you know, like you said, fans are interested at the moment, and they're thinking, hang on, there's something going all right here, and that can only be good for the game. Will we win it? I don't know. I hope so, but as long as we're in there fighting, the fans will keep coming, the crowds will go up, the amateur clubs will start getting full again, and you know, you get that vibrant town, and that's all I want.
Fingers crossed it all works out like that, you know, that's the way forward. Richard, you, I know, had a little dabble at being a head coach at Salford. Didn't last long. Where are you? Are you a Super League head coach in the future, or are you, as I believe that all assistant coaches should be, assistant coaches for the rest of their lives, honestly, because there's pressure, but there's not like pressure that's heaped on people like Daryl Powell when you finish in 11th in the table. Not like pressure that you get on Tony Smith at Hull if they're going badly, Rowan Smith at Leeds. The list is Ian Watson, who you took over from at Salford, you know. Is this it for you now?
At the minute, yeah, I'm really happy in the role, and as you know, as Gary said, I'm really happy at the club. I think the club's brilliant. It's been really good to me. Giving me my first opportunity as an assistant coach. In fact, it was Gary who gave me my first opportunity as academy head coach 12 years ago, and then I've sort of gone full circle. I've been a head coach at Halifax, assistant at Saints, and then obviously I had a year at Salford. It didn't go to plan. It was in COVID. There was lots of different reasons there. Could I have worked harder? Yes. Did I feel I got the support? Probably not. But at the same time, you live and learn from your experiences. I wouldn't be here without that experience. So I'm grateful for that. But for Warrington and me, I'm really happy. Daryl's there's myself and Ryan Sheridan, and I think in the week we do a lot. We're really hands-on with the players. Or you know, reviews, previews, and one-to-ones. He's really big on that, and the dialogue that we have, and the synergy between the coaching staff's excellent. And I think it's relieved Daryl this year just to take a step back and assess. I think he's done that. I think he's put a good team together, and obviously preparations are for next year as well. You know, we're looking at players for next year. So for me, at the minute, really happy being an assistant. Do I want to be an assistant forever? Probably not. I'll probably get to a point where I want to be a head coach again, but not at the moment, no.
Or be a deputy head. Look what happens when you be a deputy head. You can come back.
Well, I won't like to be told off by Gary Chambers anyway, put it that way. Get a detention with Gaz, no thanks.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of people like that. Listen, fellas, it's been fascinating talking to you. Best of luck with everything you're doing. Best of luck with this tour to Australia. Fingers crossed. We haven't even talked about who you're going to play in that, but I believe that is still just a little bit fluid. Maybe a New South Wales team has been mentioned. Other teams as well from the NRL. So we'll all keep an eye on how it goes. The very best of luck to the both of you, and I hope you have a great tour, and more importantly, I hope you have a great season here.
The only downside to the tour, it's scheduled in for the 15th of October. The grand final's the 14th. So if we do get there,
you might all miss the plane.
Yeah, it's not the best time. Hey, Ed, and just to thank you as well. You know, what you've done for us as well. That what you did, you know, the other day was fantastic. So it means a lot to us, and you know, that you're playing your part in supporting this town as well. That's fantastic.
Well, it's a great pleasure for me to do that, and we'll be doing the Question of Sport in a local pub in the first week of June, so we look forward to seeing you then as well for that. Thanks very much for your time again. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks, boys.
Cheers.
It really has been
Thank
great.
you, man. Thanks.
And next week, the podcast will be back to normal, so join us again, same time next week for the next edition of Eddie and Stevo, the podcast.